Okay, so A Line in the Sand is a collection of 13 short stories that address the issue of feminism, relationship in the, I say Nigerian context. I'll explain that later. Nigerian context, because when feminists talk about feminism in Nigeria, people say there is the kind of feminism that does not work in Nigeria and does not work in Africa. So relationship in the Nigerian context. So there's feminism, there's relationship, there's love, romance, and gender equality and life balance. So first of all, how many of us read the book?
I finished it.
How many times?
Very important.
Okay, so for the GLORYLAND book club, we have this thing where a few of us read the book beforehand, and then we recommend books that are suitable. Sometimes we read books, and when you pass it on to Williams, he'll be like, this is not the kind of book I want to read. But he said he finished it, so. First of all, how many, we are all literary enthusiasts here, right? How many of us can call literary text or feminist text that we've read that have been as remarkable as A Line in the Sand?
How many feminist text? How many feminist text?
You know, there are some literary texts you read where there's feminism and there's politics and all of those other things abused. For example, Purple Hibiscus. It's kind of a feminist text, am I right? Yeah, but there's abuse and all of that. Yeah. But this book particularly addresses a particular issue, and it goes deep. It cuts deep. Now, if you read from the first story, you see how the characters are all trying to survive in Nigeria. Although we have some stories set outside of the country, but you see how generally people are trying to survive in Nigeria. I'm saying this because if you ask the young people here, the young literary enthusiasts here, how many of them think deeply about their relationships? Kemi, I'm talking to you. How many of them think deeply about their relationships? Romantic relationships. You know, before you say something, you know, there's a way this book brings your mind to very little things that you really wouldn't pay attention to. Yeah, things like now she makes boundaries a very big thing. She makes it a very important thing. But on a normal day, with our individual lives, we see it as something very, yeah. It's not like we don't think it's important. We just don't pay enough attention to it. So, Kevin.
Okay. If I understand your question well, you're asking for the purpose of, you're asking how many of us per year the reason our relationship matter.
Yes.
That question is somehow, because I feel like a lot of the relationship issues, but they don't think enough how far it runs. Like the book helps us point out certain situations. Sorry if I'm jumping or crossing the line in the sand. So like you don't get to see certain situations, people married, had an autistic child and all of those things. So I don't think we think too far over them. At the same time, we don't, let's not blame them too much. They love the shack right now, so how do you think so far? So, culture, I can't really give a good average.
It's not, he said something, love the shack. It's not really, I don't think it's, okay, that's my personal opinion. I'm supposed to be moderating and allowing people to speak. So, but let me just air out my personal opinion. You said love. I don't think it's love that makes people pay less attention to boundaries or things like this. I think it's the knowledge gap. People just don't know that it's that important and that it's a thing that they should pay attention to in their relationships. Now, the book focuses mainly on relationship in marriage, but it's about everything actually, because I know I'm not married, but it starts from somewhere. I was on the phone with Bralade a few weeks ago, and she told me about the inspiration for the book. She said the very first inspiration was or is her parents, and that they've been married for, I cannot remember the accurate years. Please help us out.
Wow.
Congratulations, sir. I think we should come and all receive blessings from it.
Thank you.
Some people cannot even stay in relationships for more than 3 months. Why? Because boundaries are not defined. And that's why the book, A Line in the Sand, is very important, especially for young people. Because we see how in the stories in the book, you see how the relationship affects, it affects everyone. If your relationship is not good with your spouse, it will affect your child. If your child is not well raised, it will affect the society. And that's it. It's a merry-go-round. So the book is actually important. Now, let's delve into the book. I want to hear from everyone here. At least everyone should speak and say something about, even if it's one short story, one thing about the book. Answer. I know you have very strong opinion. I know you have very, feminist things. We argue a lot, so please give me the mic. Take some.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, Bralade, Imminent Jones is a genius. After reading the book, I was like, wow, like, it's awesome, it's fantastic. She made us realize a lot of stuff. I'm not married yet, just like, yeah. And it's so good to know the family before you get into marriage. It opens your mind, make you understand that, okay, the person you're getting married to is a complete human being with emotions, with intelligence as well. So you don't just assume that because you're a man, you know it all, or you have it all, or you should dictate or direct how it.
I'm going to ask a question.
The author is also an young man.
Now you agree people should be complete humans.
I always agree that people are complete and every person should be revenged. Everybody is worthy of respect. Although respect is a relative entity, but it also made us understand a whole lot of stuff. And it's like bringing it down home. One of the stories I like so well is my madam's Oga. And one thing about the author is she Some stories she thought as a man, other times like a woman, other times like a house girl, and can relate with every story. It's fantastic, and for me, it's an eye opener. Kudos to the author. God bless you, man. Nice.
Anybody else? What's your favorite short story? Or your favorite character?
I have a number of favorite short stories. But I think my favorite of all of them was Aquaking. Now you have Olama and her husband, and you see the God complex play out. This is a woman who is very dependent on people, run my errands for me, pick me up, and then you have a husband who is satisfied to be in control of somebody's life. And then at the end of the story, you find out that two people draw boundaries for themselves. While the husband decides that, okay, I'm not going to do everything for you, Olama has to learn that people don't have to do everything for me. I have to grow into being an independent person. One of the things that affects boundaries for us as people, especially as Nigerians, is power. Parents, you say, don't come into my room without knocking. They open the door like this because they feel they have power over you. So the God complex plays a very big part in setting boundaries. Don't call me past 9. And you're toasting me, and if you can call me, you're stupid. It's because you feel like you have some kind of power over this person. So seeing that at some point, the man, Olama's husband had to drop that position of having power over a complete human being, like Roland said, helps him set a boundary for himself and to set, even his wife felt like she had some kind of control. She could call her husband at any time, and just because I'm pretty, he would have to run to my rescue. She could do that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Since it's an interactive session, let's just, I'll come back to you. Now, did any of us think that her husband, the particular story she's talking about, really pissed me off? Did any of us think that he was showing that he loved her? It was love or stupidity? Hold on. Yes. The story where maybe I think I should remind you guys. The wife, I don't even have the words to describe her. She's a complete pest. She calls her husband from work. That story, right? Yes. She calls her husband from work to get the TV remote for her. That kind of thing.
Who does that?
And I do want to.
To end for this man? When is his torture going to end? And there's a thing I love about the way that Bralade structured the stories. All of them ended. There was a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you understand storytelling, you understand what I'm talking about. The craft of short stories is in a way that sometimes you're not obligated to end the stories because they are short stories. But most of the stories, if not all of them, ended. I think my favorite would be the one about the nurse. Why did you say nurse? Okay. Why?
Well, actually, it was just there.
Did you think she was doing too much?
No. So she felt she was doing what, like, out of love. She was helping her husband. This is the one with the dream, the husband dreaming.
Yes. Thank you for calling it dream.
The husband had this very weird mentality that, okay, she should support me.
No, I'm looking for money.
Wait, it's not a weird mentality.
Not a weird mentality.
I have dreams as well. I'm looking for someone
But
who
doesn't mean you have to stop somebody's stage.
No, so he actually genuinely felt he was.
I think some of you are afraid to see somebody lost.
I think I should
No,
say
you have to
something.
say things that will
These stories, they play out in our everyday lives. They are issues that we see in our everyday relationships. I know this is not a relationship class. I have to consult Bralade professionally, of course. You pay her money, right, sir? Yeah, for that. But speak up.
Thank you. Thank God I'm not afraid. So, okay, I would like to start from I don't really remember names of characters. Yeah. The thing is, I think at the beginning, and I think it's like that for many people, at the beginning is love. Like Kevin, my love says. At the beginning, it's shocking, right? You feel you can go all extent. If this woman wants my entire time, just like the last story, if this woman wants me at a beck and call, what's enough for? I'm here for you. God died for us, He died for you, right? At the beginning, it's, but how sustainable is that? At the end of the day, many people say it's not love that sustains the marriage. I've heard that many times. It's more than that.
So what sustains the marriage?
I don't know. I'm not married. So I think that at the beginning it's love, it's okay, I can do all this. And then there's always the selfish part of every human being. Okay, thank you, man. I'll add that to
Okay,
so thank you, sir. Thank God I have something I'll add to my future relationship. Hallelujah. So the thing is, I think there is a selfish part of every human being, even though we do not like to admit it to ourselves. We want to say, okay, I'm a good person, but deep down, there is a part of you that just wants to like do things for you. So for the man, Akwaike's husband, okay, maybe it's love, but there's also the part, and I think it was mentioned in the story that he likes being, how do I say, needed, or like likes the attention of this person is being, this person needs me to do this. You know, this person can't survive without me. But then, if the person can't survive without me, it means that you are the person's oxygen. And then you will run dry sometimes. So I think there's always that issue. We do not want to set boundaries. At the end of the day, to hurt us. I was having a conversation with my husband's wife at home, and we are like, you don't want to set boundaries, but you feel okay, you don't want to hurt somebody or whatever. But if the other way around, the person is hurting you without you really thinking about it. At the end of the day, you are sapped dry and all that. So yeah, that's
okay. My favorite stories, Madame's Olga and the beginning story. Now, when I read the book, or while I was reading it, I remember an incident that happened while I was in school. I was away from campus and I received a call that one of my dear friends was in the hospital. She was black and blue, her boyfriend. And while we were describing this guy to me, I said, no to him. And then it reminded me, the dream man. this guy was good in school, his grades were okay, he's financially okay compared to some of us. And he looked so meek, and but then, looking at my madam's program, other persons were seeing the fault of the husband, but she refused to leave. I don't know how it happened, but she refused to leave, just like my friend. Even while the guy was arrested, she went and bailed him out. Police, don't be you in it. I don't understand how. And then when I was reading the book, I also thought about something that happened just while I graduated from school. My auntie's husband's relations when I was in the house, and I was supposed to look after her children while they went on some assignments in the village. And he raised his voice at me and he threw the plate at me. And it was just a narrow escape. And I did not do anything about it. And while I'm reading the book, I'm like, what is this thing that happens when someone has crossed the boundary with you? You know it is wrong. I know it is wrong. Yes, I told my auntie and the question, but as at that time, I did not even do anything. In the evening, I remember I still made noodles and I said, we can't take you. It's funny, but it's reality. People watch us, people close to us, and I think at that initial time, I was supposed to tell them, don't do this or stop it. Or we've seen the sign now, it's no longer sign, it's not a big picture. But we're unable to set it yet. Others see it. I don't know if any other person can relate. Yeah, we understand what you're
Yeah, I'm going to say something. Welcome, everybody. You're with me fine. Okay. I think it's quite simple. Before I read this book, I had this idea about relationships. I didn't even think that boundaries are supposed to be important because they tell us from the Bible, a man will leave his wife, his father, and they shall be joined and become one flesh. So by that description, I was thinking that going to the book together, there are no secrets, there are no boundaries, they do everything together essentially. But going through the book, I realized that it's much more complicated than that. I'm not married, at least I won't be for the next 4 years. Yeah, I know when I'm getting married. So it's a real eye opener. My favorite story, I think, is going to be Sage. It's the one where, if you have not read, it's the one where the wife gets in a fellowship, apparently, and the husband says she cannot go. And the man, some people say the man is a German, and quite right, it's his dreams. And so I think that this conversation people should have best way before they go into such commitments. But yeah, my favorite story is the Sage. I particularly like enlightening the sound, the theme story for the book also. I have one or two, we'll get there, but I have one or two, if you can any thoughts, I have them. But thank you.
All of you is talking about the evening, the German in this.
Of course, we are all the German.
I actually want to add to what the lady behind me said earlier, because in school, I had this housemate that said that she likes a guy who knows how to beat her. That was weird to me. She said that that means that he knows how to control a home and whatnot. And there are a lot of women who think like this. So I actually want to ask, does domestic violence transfer as expectation in relationships? Does domestic violence transfer as expectation in relationships? It sounds weird, but honestly, I just felt that, okay, this must have been your environment for you to be expecting that or thinking like that right now. Let's take the practice of the book. The story is suspicious. You have Karela always checking her husband's phone. And when the man decided that if you don't stop snooping, if you don't stop checking on my life, I'm going to move out. It was then he realized that his wife was responding to trauma from her childhood. Whenever you have people respond to domestic violence by running back to it, you realize that you have somebody with a mental issue or with a self-esteem issue. Should not even be an expectation. You should not expect to be shouted at. You should expect to be treated like somebody with rational thinking. Maybe you have somebody say, I want a man that beats me. You have to take it to see a psychiatrist. There's something going on.
But that means that it exists.
Okay, so I think the question that and the issues you both raised, I was going to ask this question. Does society aid and abet the absence of boundaries in relationships?
The societies of your society.
The society.
Yes, definitely on all levels.
If you say that, then you tell me the values you were taught that society instilled in you. It means that Kenya was taught that a man does this. This is how he treats his woman. This is how he treats his wife. This is how he treats his girlfriend. And if she speaks out of turn, he does something to her.
Okay, I think very rarely when somebody sits anyone down, tell them that you should beat a woman or you should maltreat somebody or generally be an asshole. Very rarely will somebody sit somebody down to tell them that. I think that most of what we are is a product of our environment. So it largely depends on the home that you're growing up in, coupled with other environmental factors, of course. So if I grew up in a home where let's say the one where the guy was beating his wife, for example, if I grew up in that kind of home and I'm one of their children, it's going to sound like the norm, right? I'm going to believe while growing up that if you are my wife, I don't consider you my equal, because that is what I've been taught growing up, subconsciously, of course, because the husband is not telling his son to behave like that. He's just acting that way. And the son is also seeing that his mother is being okay with it, at least as far as he can see. So going into it, so when he's growing up and when he's getting into relationship, they've just given birth to, or they've released somebody's husband and somebody's father, and that person is going to continue the circle. You can see in one of those stories when the guy was mentoring some other guys.
I was about to say that. There's some things you're not told. I personally asked, I'm asking all the men here, what are those things we're taught? As girls, growing up, you're taught you should get ready for marriage and be a wife material, 1,000 yards, and all of that. So personally, what are those things you got from your mom or your dad in preparation for marriage, or being with a woman?
I was very, very honest. My father did not tell me anything. It's fact. It's not. My father did not tell me anything. Understand? I think personally, I modeled my life after my dad because I consider him, a very good man. So I see that he doesn't beat his wife, and I'm not going to do that. I see that he talks to his wife, and I think after that. But for me to say, this man wants me to tell me, no. And very, very, I think Nigerian parents are very rarely tell me that. Tell me that don't tell me anything. Who wants to speak?
Thank you. I'm quite interested in this young man. So you're talking, I think. The beating of women, is it love or it is? Some of you have actually said it's as a result of cultural or upbringing. What a child has seen from day one, both male and female. like that. It's actually going to be imprinted in their mind subconscious. And it will be so. I have right here the Hama tribe of Africa, where women in the ceremony actually pick the man, come and flog me to show love. It's right here, but I'm interested in that question, so I went there. So when I touch you, you put me serious, and my capacity to endure shows that I'm a good woman and I love the man, the wife material.
You know this thing where why you sound I said that because she said the Hama tribe, right? Yes. The okay. As much as you can endure the whips, that's how much of a good woman you are, or a wife material you are. And that's what is happening in our present day today. And even when feminists speak up, some people say, you don't know the environment you're in. You're in Bielsa, you're in Nigeria, and things must be done in a certain way. Now, Kemi, you have reservations. Say what you want to say.
I don't understand why I do this in their Okay, so I have my own questions that I'll be popping up later. But firstly, before I give any answer, my guy said you have to have seen it in your father's house before you can reciprocate it. Like you have to have seen that maybe your dad beats your mother, so that's why you will most likely beat your wife. For me, I feel like some of these things don't have to be shown to you by your parents. So it's like my father never watched porn. Yes.
Okay.
But I have seen pornography. Yes. So I don't think some of these things have to be. I feel like sometimes some people, it's not a product of they are not just products of their society alone. I would say one person is some people on their own learn more things. Some people were born with problems. I don't know, I feel that way. Some people were born with more resilience or social stimulus, So if I am a very hot tempered person, and there's this chick that is thinking that the world is not a free world, and talk as you want, act as you want, I will show you reality. I will show you reality. That's it. Of course, I have to give her a few slaps. I don't mean to be a person. I'm trying to beat him. Because we have ways of bringing out very critical issues in our society. I'm trying to not jump the line, waiting for you to get to that section of it. So, what I'm trying to say is, some of these issues were not dived. Is that the word? Dived. No, I don't want to be delved. I want to be dived. When somebody dives into something. Some of these issues were not dived into very explicitly. It felt to me, even some of the stories, like, I mean no offense, but it felt to me like she was rushing to finish it. Because like the one that the man beats his wife, you don't know whether at some point she pushed him to the wall. That because madam, I think because the husband, something like that.
So what it ended? Except you did not understand.
I'm not giving an excuse for the guy. I'm just saying that there are things that may have happened that we don't know. And suddenly you just see that one person is slapping somebody. That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, Can I speak, Kevin?
Yes, you can speak.
Yes, please sit down. Thank you. We're not against you.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, if someone writes a short story about a man who abuses his wife, up to the extent where his in-law is present and he still does that, you want to get a backstory as to why he hits his wife?
Yes, I want to.
Yes. There should be a reason.
Yes, yes.
A reason.
Yes. If you give me enough time, I can explain why.
Wait, so as far as the reason is justified.
No.
That's what you're saying. That's actually what you're saying.
There are situations where the reason is good enough for a person to be slapped. Come on. But every reason does not justify anything. Some reasons do.
Lady were to be stronger in physical strength and she could slap him for a wrong, will you genuinely approve of it? But we have so many girls that are doing martial arts, boxing, wrestling, who can beat up your husband. Advise us, if the lady is stronger, so will she be right if the man is wrong and she goes right to class? So far, the reason is very good.
Yes, if the woman is stronger than the man, and the man is abusing the woman, don't mind that. Okay, the man offends the woman, and the woman feels that the offense this man committed is what is Islam. She's left with these options. One, if she's completely correctly right in all senses. That's why I said reasons around the problem is that every time we hear that a man slaps his wife, we jump to say it's been abuse. That's the problem. And I can understand why, because generations upon generations, women have been living in their life. It's been abusive, but wait. There are too many questions for me to answer.
Now, if a woman offends her husband,
Yes.
if she's strong enough to fight him, perhaps she's a Navy SEAL or something, and she can stand her ground.
Yes.
Would you not want to resolve issues verbally?
Some people can only respond to. Yes, if the woman can take it. You don't believe advice. I'll tell you, it's just my voice. But this is where I'm coming from. I'm saying that so many times when we hear that a man beats his wife, we are fond of feeling that it is abuse. It's not necessarily abuse. Listen, let me explain what I'm saying. This is what I'm trying to say. There are things that a woman will do that needs If I was on that side and somebody gave me pain
Okay, can I say something?
Okay, now we're talking about society. Let's
Can I say something?
Okay, we've had you say that abuse justified.
I did not say so. I did not say so. I did not say abuse is justified. I said that every time a person is what I said. I don't say abuse. If it is abuse, it is not justified. The term itself explains that it is punitive. When your mom beats you, that when your mother beats you, why can another not be beaten? Don't be a politician or not beaten. Not beating yourself.
She wants to say something.
Can I say something? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, yes, I understand. You know, anytime you see a Hitler or you see an Idi Amin, you kind of want to know their backstory. How did someone become like this? And there's likely stories, right? You see someone like R. Kelly, who's currently facing trials for how he abused several underage women. And people want to understand, how were you raised? What happened in your childhood that has made you twisted like this? I understand the curiosity, but you know, when they're sentencing someone for murder, the judge doesn't ask what happened in your past. You're still facing the music while people are still trying to understand your mind. So one of the things I would say is that those acts don't make it right, regardless of where you're coming from. It helps us understand what can lead someone to be in this darkness, or what can lead such a horrendous practice to almost be a cultural ritual. But how do you as an individual say, hey, I'm not a part of this? Because it takes two consenting adults to have a culture like that. You can start to say, hey, this culture is not necessarily the most beneficial for both of you. But if one person, even one person, whether the husband or the wife, does not subscribe to this manner of living, then it's not acceptable. It doesn't matter what has happened in your past. It doesn't matter what the culture is. So I would say, let's leave it at that. We all have such strong opinions, but one thing I can say for sure is that even if it's not against the law of your country, because there's some countries that it's probably not against the law, but does one person like it? If one person does not subscribe to it, it shouldn't be permissible. That's where boundaries come in, because it supersedes the law of the land, it supersedes the cultural norms. It goes down to the individual. What does that individual permit in their own life, in their own space? And if they're not a willing participant, then you violated their boundaries, and that can be tantamount to abuse, if you like. That's it. That's my contribution.
Well, if you have a
Sky.
But I'd like to know if anyone has a question for me, because I know that the time, well, my own time as well is pretty tight. But if anyone has a question for me, I'd like to take it. And feel free to critique the book as well. Thank you all for being so generous. I know that Williams had some too. Go ahead. I see someone's hand up.
The like most of the first, number one, why is it that almost every couple will go to America? Am I going to feel that way? It felt like almost every couple in the book is going to the US. No, that's my normal question. You keep going to the US. Some school there, some school here, but they always go to the US. What's in the long from? And usually when they go to the US, it's Houston. Does she stay in Houston?
Yeah, okay, let me take a stab at that. How many of you have read Chimamanda's books, her short stories? How many times have you seen Nsukka? If you've seen Nsukka several times, put your hand up. Several stories, like she has a collection of short stories, and about half of them are set in Nsukka or the Enugu area. Every author kind of works, if you really want to be authentic in your writing, you either immerse yourself in the culture of where you're writing about, or you are from there. So I think that was my most genuine perspective. I've schooled in the UK and I live in Houston. So to me, when I'm writing, I want people who are from those areas, who are from, who live in Houston, to almost see themselves. And I hear many of you talk about it like you are almost like a part of the story. Some people think they know some characters in my story. They will be like, Juan Francis, I don't like why he's behaving like that. You know, because that's what relatable fiction, realistic fiction brings you into the story and makes you feel like you're a part of it. That's why. And I also wanted to demystify the concept that abuse or boundary violation, it only occurs in with people who are illiterate. That's another thing I wanted to disabuse. So this is written generally. I would say my target audience or my target protagonists are people who are largely successful or at least have some level of education and still find themselves in these cultural conditioning cycles where there's some abuse and things like that going on. So I wanted to bring that to limelight. That's why.
Thank you. Another question is, I was enjoying how from the first story, it felt like the story began with Ijaw people. I think there was a Barry. So, and then I saw that the next one, there were Igbos. You know, so it felt to me like maybe the author was trying to write a book that would encompass most of the cultures in our country, because I noticed the sequence. And I did not see Hausa.
What's your name, my friend, please?
What?
Indon sees the mic. Oh, you guys won't get that mic back.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
See you Hausa. There was some Hausa names. The one I saw was a house that was really just so that was named from the northern states. So I did not see a story that there. We had the Jaws, we had the Igbos, we even had the two people, just the people, I think. They talked about their clothes in some of the stories. But how some people, do you have something against the North?
It's a very good question. And I think my first question answered the second question. You know, sometimes authors can be aspirational, just go and write about a culture that you know nothing about. And that's where misappropriation comes in. And that's where we have the danger of a single story. It's happened where many white men or women have written about, you know, cultural Africa like they were a part of it. If you truly want to get it right, you have to go immerse yourself. I have never lived in the North. I think the only time I went to the North, or one of the first few times I went to the North, I went with my mom for a conference in Zaria, and then I went to visit my sister in Kebbi when she was doing her NYSC. That's about it. But it was important to me to include their name. I live in a country where I represent all of Nigeria and most of Africa. When people speak to me, they expect me to know. I grew up with a father who was interested in names and a mom who speaks 3 languages, Igbo, Ijaw, Yoruba. So that cultural immersion gave me the perspective that I was able to use to write about Yoruba people, write about Igbo people. I'm married to an Igbo man. I did my youth service in Yoruba land. So when I'm saying it like I've heard before from my friends or people. But unfortunately, I don't have that many Hausa friends. So I haven't really learned a lot about them. But don't worry, maybe for my next book, I will do a lot more study and tell them as well. Great questions. If you guys don't take that mic, he has 5 more questions. Don't worry, we'll talk after now, me and you. We have someone online who wants to ask a question. So Andres, if you do want to unmute.
Yes. I actually had a contribution before, but now it seems inappropriate. So I'll just go to the question. I don't know. I've finished the book like in a while. I don't know if my memory serves me right, but to me, like most of the stories actually have a happy ending. It's not like I'm against happy ending because come on, but me, I'm trying to look at it from a realistic angle, especially the story of the nurse. If someone did that to me, someone was that insensitive, like if my mom was sick and I was trying to send money to a parent and my husband apprehends that, like, what if she dies? I will never, like, that is the end for me. Like, I'm almost in tears right now. It is like, I'm so emotional. That would just, like, if I hear that, I'm not discussing anything with you, like, I'm leaving. So I'm wondering why, like, some of these things actually have to be fixed. Like, do they really have to be fixed? That's like, I just feel like most of the stories, me, this is my point of view anyways. I would totally walk away and not work anything out. And that's it. So why?
All right. Yeah, let me take a go at that. You know, there are a few married people in the room there. If you ask them what they've actually either seen married, what are the extent of some of the betrayals, your jaw would hit the floor. If you think this one is a betrayal, you should see even worse. I remember when I first wrote the domestic abuse story, someone was reading it, she was like, is it real? Will a man really behave like that towards his domestic staff? And I was like, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Someone just said something about someone where she was throwing a plate at her. Would you have believed? If she ever told you, you probably wouldn't believe. So one of the things I would say is, going back to the question, there have been cases like that. And that's why the book is called A Line in the Sand. I could take all the other things, but this one is a bit too much. At least just have conscience. So it's true, her mom could have died. I could have killed the mom. Many of you like such abrasive, how I put it, godlike authors, but we are not doing a TV series here. Try to make it as realistic as possible. So before the mom would die, she found out about it and got to do something about it. But you see, if something like that never happened, she probably would never have, taken a stand. She probably would have just gone with the flow, and she would have been 60 years old, no money to train the kids in school. Maybe they would have been getting evicted from their house because he always squanders the money. So that's, if you haven't read, that's called Money Matters. It's actually even, there's an audio rendition of it. If you follow me on Instagram, if you go on the link on my bio, you can read it. It's so good. They actually simulated all the phone calls and all of those things. So you would like that. Do I have any other questions from the room?
Yes.
Good evening.
Hello.
Bralade, most of your characters, they are successful, had good education, yet they have emotional imbalance. So I want to ask, how does one balance being successful, brilliance, and emotional intelligence? Since emotional intelligence seems to be a rarity among your characters, how can one balance being successful, being brilliant, and also being emotional intelligent with regards to marriage as it is in the book?
That is such a great question. And I think I will, if you haven't realized so far, I idolize my dad and my mom a little bit. It's not easy in life to be able to have parents who are emotional, in quote, or relationship role models, as well as intellectual and professional role models. So both my parents are the first children of their own respective parents, and there's a huge gap between themselves and their younger ones. But I never saw that authoritarianism in their own lives. In fact, my latest thing has been like, they don't even shout like they should. Because when I feel like, okay, maybe some of your younger ones or some things are going wrong, the way other people will be like, in fact, I'm like, the God of your life, look at this, that, and the other have done for you. That's what many other people would do. And people would celebrate them and say they're taking charge. But what people forget is that all their younger siblings that they used to bathe are now adults themselves. So my dad is one person that if no one has woken up, he won't come wake you up so that you can make him a cup of tea. He would ask, are you available? Is anyone awake? So those very little, these things sound very little, right? If we had our mechanic, in quote, you know, when they say mechanic in Nigeria, it's not the same as when you say my banker. Our mechanic was our family friend. He would come in the house, sit down on the chair that if the governor came, not that the governor came, but if he came, the same chair he would sit down. So I learned from an early age that people at their core are to be valued, are to be respected, just for who they are, not because of any degrees and all. And education can add an extra layer of pride if we let it. It can add a layer of pomposity that you wouldn't even believe possible just because you have this PhD from Harvard and you think you are all these things. Many men even look for people who are less educated than themselves because they think that it means they'll be able to control them. So in your heart, I would say one thing to always check is, why do I feel I'm better than the next person? And why do I feel that wishes are to be ignored versus mine? And that's a level of emotional intelligence that you can't just practice with reading a book. You have to live it in your daily life. It starts from you screaming at the keke man that is crossing your path, as maddening as that is. But yes, education does not guarantee success in marriage, far from it. It just means that when you guys are arguing or quarreling, you'll be using big English instead of, just cussing each other out. So I would say take heed to these things. And because of that, I set out this boundary summit, which starts today. If you know about it in the room, let me know. Who knows about the boundary summit? Okay, if you go again on my link in bio on Instagram, I got a huge number of speakers, about 18, to talk about professional boundaries, because some people don't know how, even in the workplace, how to relate with their leaders, with their subordinates. They think their subordinates, they own their life because they are paying their salaries. Whatever it is, in every facet of your human relationships, interactions, there are boundaries to be honored. I like to say the word honored, not necessarily set. So we're going to be talking about that over the next 3 days, I think for 4 hours every day, because people want to know, just the question you ask, people want to know, what does this look like? If I have a healthy relationship, what does it look like? Some people were talking before about trauma. They have never seen a healthy relationship model. They don't even know that is possible. In fact, people say, in this Nigeria, where? But it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And I would ask you, first of all, to believe it so that you can aspire and work towards it.
Okay, I think I should ask some questions. I have a lot of questions, but since we're short time. So, is there a blueprint for a successful relationship?
That's like a Bible question. I know that I wrote a book on boundaries, but I also am learning. My husband is on the call there. He will tell you, sometimes I get it wrong. My brother is in the room behind there. He will tell you in a heartbeat, sometimes I get it wrong. I don't think we all have it. We all have the exact blueprint, or that even if we had it, we would adhere to it at all times. But the most important thing is being willing to be better. I think that is the least you can expect from anybody, being willing to at least honor when I tell you stuff is not okay. be able to honor it. It doesn't mean I agree. If you told me you don't want to go to school, I would think you were making a horrible decision, but I wouldn't then turn around and force you. You're a full-grown adult, live your life. I would go back to that prodigal son's father. I think that is one of the most successful blueprints of how to deal with a relationship. I mean, it was his own wealth to give. He could have said, no, prodigal son, I'm not giving you. But prodigal son said, I want to go. What do you want to do? You want to hold your child. You don't want them to marry this person. So I don't know, anything you have done to stop another full-grown adult. I mean, you can advise, you can, tell them how this decision may be a wrong decision, but ultimately it is that person's decision to make. And I think that if we could honor that in every individual we meet, I mean, even if your spouse decided he wants to marry 5 wives, that is wrong. That is against your marriage vows. Okay, maybe it's time you left. You can't change the person. If the sooner we realize we can't change someone else, I think the healthier our relationships will be. But I added an appendix to the book because I did want to tell stories, because I know that I don't know it all. So I wanted to show people, what does this look like? Because every time I say boundaries, people are like, are you trying to separate husbands from wives? There shouldn't be any boundaries. Anything should go. No, not like that. So I try to tell stories, but at the end, I did a little 10-step on how to set boundaries. And I believe that if you truly introspect and write out, what does this look like to me, that you will be largely successful in your relationships. And if you're not successful in some, maybe it wasn't meant to be, except your family, and that's a whole other issue. So don't worry, we won't talk about it right here, right now.
Okay, because there's a story in the book where there's this young girl who's looking at a much older couple and trying to model her life and relationship after that. So that's why I asked that. And largely in the African culture, people are always looking for, in fact, Nigerians are always looking for how to imitate others. How does this person do this? How does this person do this? So they want to, it comes from a place of trying to be better. Yeah, that's why they do that. That's why after now, we all receive blessings from our father and mother.
I think that this our generation, one of our handicaps as well as one of our blessings is social media. You see, those days when people wanted to emulate, you had to look, you had to hear them, Although, you can say it goes both ways as well. Some people, what they want to emulate is the anko style that the husband and wife they're wearing, is the schools that their children go to, is how they look in public. They call them #couple goals, #agolove, or come up with some of the other hashtags, right? So we like the glam, we don't like the work, and we don't truly do that work of investigation. Like, see, this was fascinated by this couple there. Now, it doesn't mean the couple hadn't had any issues, like I tried to embed into that story. It doesn't mean that couple hadn't had any issues. But you see her doing an analysis of their lives, and you see that she never had that example. A lot of us don't know that some people have never had this modeled. Her parents were not with her raising her. She was with her grandmom, who was with many other wives in separate houses. So if this was not something, if you had left her in that community, her life would have likely gone the way of most of the other people there. So she did that work of really getting a model. So many of you got married in a Catholic church, for example, you have a sponsor. I hope you didn't pick who had the most money, who could help sponsor your wedding, but that you actually pick people who could advise you and help you grow in your relationship, people you could look at and be like, okay, this is how this man treats this woman. This is how this woman honors this man. And that's what I would copy. Don't go for couple goals. Everybody just glance up. You don't even know what was happening behind the scenes. It doesn't also mean that if they put pictures, their marriage is bad, though, because I know Nigerians like that thing a lot, to say, you don't even know whether they are even still married. No, let's not also be tainted like that, but don't go by social media, please.
Okay, so is therapy an agreed approach to solving problems in a relationship?
Absolutely. And again, when I say therapy, that one, oh, sorry, had you finished, Inessa?
Yes.
Okay. Therapy is when I say therapy, the good thing about the African culture, we do have a lot of good things, is that your business is everybody's business in some interesting way, right? Your family is not going to hear that you're having a divorce and they won't do anything to counsel both of you. That is something that we should treasure. That is something that we should honor. But at the same time, not every family is level-headed enough to say, hey, husband, this is your side, wife, this is your side. These are some things you can work on. Some people will just be like flat out, you have no say in this matter. You are staying in this matter. Don't come back to our house. Actually, that's one thing I love about Ijaw culture. I hear some things about Igbo culture, and if I get it wrong here, don't murder me, please. Some of the things people say is, as you're leaving this house, we have packed out, don't come back to this house. If there's any problem between you and your husband, don't tell us. You people fix your life the way you like. That is not good. It is not good, to put it in the simplest of terms, because you're closing the door. You're helping the person hide things even when they need help. And it becomes like a wound that festers. He starts to get the message that your problems are not welcome. We won't help you solve it. I love the Ijaw culture that if you like, be married, be unmarried, be divorced, nobody's looking down on you. I love that. Now, it doesn't mean that's what we're advocating for, but it doesn't make you less of a person, whether or not you're married or whether or not your relationship worked out. So therapy is absolutely important. Even if you don't have of course, in the US here, if you don't have family, the therapist is the next choice. But one of the things I would say is definitely, please consult somebody. You have issues in your marriage, don't hide and let it fester. If you have a couple that you both respect and you settle these things in the time of peace. My husband and I, we know our levels of escalation. We know that if we get stuck, there's certain things we're talking about, it won't work. We talk to someone. We already know the person. When we're discussing all these things, there was no quarrel. So don't wait for the time of quarrel. In the time of peace, in the time of love, discuss these things so that you actually follow through when somebody's head is doing scoring. Is that what they call it? Yeah. All right.
Okay, so for everyone,
one more question and then I'll have to leave.
For everyone to understand clearly what you mean by boundaries and the reason for which you've written this book, please help us explain the concept behind boundaries.
That is a psychological question. But again, this is not a plug because it's a free conference, a free virtual summit. It's happening on YouTube, which is where I'm going to right now. It just started at 3 p.m. We'll be on from 3 p.m. till 8 p.m. tonight. But attend if you have time. Boundaries are essentially what makes you you. What is that fence between you and your neighbor? What is that thing that separates what you control, what you have power over versus what someone else has power over? And again, we're talking about two adults. We're not just talking about children, right? Even though many of you, I hear you, some of us, our parents were definitely overbearing on some of our boundaries, but not all of us. Some of us, our parents were too liberal and they just let us run amok. All of those things are boundaries. How do you relate with someone else? Can somebody in your life tell you no and you'll be able to respect it, whether or not you like it? Can you be free to say no to anything? And I think that when you start to realize that my destiny is in my own hands, I have power over it, you stop saying things like, you made me angry, you made me slap you, you made me do this, you made me, or my husband made me do this. Like, he made me not go to school. Things that just shouldn't be, because you're a free moral agent, able to pursue your own aspirations, live your own dreams, stay aligned to your core values, because we all have them. Guess what? We all have boundaries, but many times we say it as it's subconscious. It's not something we do intentionally. If someone says, oh, take this knife and stab yourself now, you don't do it just because someone told you. But then they ask you, oh, come and follow me there, and you start avoiding your phone because you don't want to say no. Things like that are what starts to let you know that, hey, I think we have a problem in this space. I'm unable to say no to this. I'm unable to say no to this thing. Some of those limits are also things of your own personal life. You don't have the personal discipline. You don't have the personal limits, and even in your thoughts, even in your actions, all of those things. So boundaries essentially a limit, like something you hit against and you're like, this is as far as I will go, or this is as far as I will let myself go in any scenario. So I explained a lot more about it. I think I'll end with that little analogy I used in the book. It is that there's this thing that people do in the Western world where you do like a candle lighting ceremony at your wedding. The husband will have a candle, the wife will have a candle, and they will come light it together as a sign of unity at the wedding, or they will pour sands in together and mix and say, hey, we're joined. One of the things that the Pastor Tony, what's his last name now? I referenced it there though. One of the things he said is that, please, when you finish lighting the candle, don't go back and blow your own candle. Even though we have something together, you're still your own entity. Your spouse is still their own entity. So maintain both your lights while you have this thing joined here together, so that you don't compromise on your aspirations, you don't compromise on your values, your health, because in cases of abuse, that is danger right there, right? That's the most extreme. But I try to show analogies, because domestic abuse, I think everyone generally gets the idea, but I try to show how these things can come up. But ultimately, I hope that this session and the book helped you be able to have those conversations more boldly, and to help someone else, that they probably have issues, you don't really know how to explain it, and you want to help them, give them this book. And hopefully, if they can see themselves, if they can hear themselves, it'll be easier to judge on that. I think I'd like to hear my dad before I go. You guys would indulge me. And my mom. I love my and my auntie. I have to honor my auntie there as well. The sound isn't so clear. I'm wondering why.
When I tell I just have to let me fall short and continue to find out to transaction with you. And so I want to say what's your I feel that even though here to engineering, you're speaking yourself. Very good. I read some chapters professionals and the book of Exo. And I'm talking about the students and I know that I just want to make this point to everyone that I was going and lying around there and I know it's right from the beginning. Thank you very much.
Noah, yes, I think the auntie has said it all. They are very closely bonded, but they're very powerful. And as you've said, you'd like to hear my voice, here it is. And the thing is, keep growing, keep growing. That's what we brought you all into the world for, so that you don't grow. That's her younger brother there. His wife has left here. They're all growing. The key thing is maybe this concentration on. It's a strong person of faith, but as she said, we never took any children to church. You grow up, you go your way. Don't say this is where you go to church. Nothing, absolutely. They picked some of it from their aunties, from other, a diffuse upbringing. This is what, and I'll round off by letting you know by speaking to the young people here. I've heard a great deal of wisdom from more than half a dozen young men and women who contribute, or even more so, amazed at the proficiency level in English communication that I've heard there. With something I've taught for ages as a teacher. It's good to know that we're not as bad as we thought we might have fixed by now. So I've heard
Hey, well. Okay, they'll probably be back soon. Okay, they're here now. Can you unmute in the room, please?
okay. So thank you very much and keep growing.
Okay, thank you. And I must honor my mom. My mom would take me to the library and buy me Famous Five. And you know, when you just finish those books, you're like, Shay, how can I make this book last? No way. It's not now, everything is online. Amazing. All right, GLORYLAND Book Club, William, Inetso. I was there last couple of months, and I attended the one with the King and the Oil Thief. The name of the book was The Oil Thief, right? And you guys, like my dad said, I was just amazed hearing all the analysis, the literary prowess, and you guys, I love that we have such a body, and keep up the good work. I'm super proud of you guys, and I'm really honored that you would read my book and discuss it today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Oh, sorry, one last plug. I have my Professor Auntie on the call as well. This is why you cannot, you know, when in life you don't have excuse. When everybody around you, the people that went before you, they have already blazed trails. You have no choice. So Professor Emesa is on the call here, head of the School of Law, University of Bradford. And super delighted to have you here, Auntie. All right, over to you guys. Have fun. Oh, my husband. Oh my gosh. My husband is just, when you have a husband that is truly supportive, you don't see that. A husband that is truly supportive, they are not dragging.
Thank you very much. I also have questions.
Okay, I think the line is cutting, but just want to honor you, Obi. I love you. Love you, love you, love you so much. Thank you for listening in. Adi, Yinke, Ijawele, Auntie Aya, I love you.
I've actually not heard a few persons speak here. So a few persons here have not said anything. And we are young people. Hello, what's coming? Okay, does anyone else have a question?
This is my question. The case of the man beating his wife. The case of the man beating his wife.
Are we back to that?
What do you? Should I ask my question or not?
Yes, go ahead.
So, people that beat their wives. I just want to hear the opinions of as much people you can allow speak because of time. What should the women do?
What should the women?
What should the women do? The women. Okay.
It would have been beautiful if mommy was here to answer that. But please go on, sir.
We're here. I think let me answer well, answer the question to all of us. The thing is that it's his partner. So these days we are raising some of the vocabulary, get more out of it than we used to. To say your wife sounds very nice, but then your wife is your partner. And in fact, in the pre-English or in the Roman root of the word, your wife is your spouse, your husband is your spouse. And you all know about espousing views, espousing positions, that you are an adherent in. When you espouse something, that's what spouses are. Once the persons that spouses, they are and should be. Anytime they are not what I'm saying, then the spousal relationship is not working. They are the chiefest partners of each other, forever and forever. Now, what do I mean by chiefest? That is to say, if anyone says, where is your best partner? That is your best partner. Now, in that situation, the very notion of assault is the other. We're not going to beat it. It's assault. Assault. If any one of them is found assaulting the other, yes, there could be lapses that drive us into certain kinds of bad behavior. But it must begin with the word bad behavior. Because it is not meant to happen. It shouldn't happen. And to begin with that position is the best thing. That it should never happen. If it does, then it's an aberration, and like all aberrations, must be atoned for. Sort of privately, you must apologize to each other. Literally, as I say this, I mean, if it is the man who lifted his hand to slap his wife, well, he owes an apology. The treatment of the spousal that I've spoken of, perhaps if there's anything she too knows that may have led to this quote, foolish outburst from him, he should apologize. I mean, it's a way to stabilize the boundaries and the relationship that with each other's boundaries. So, above all, you know, the fact that we're married does not allow us to breach this fundamental rule of behavior. Your own children too, we end up sometimes, but again, if you do more than a slap, then you are being an abuser. Yeah, what I mean is if for any reason your stepfather cannot manage you enough to not do it at all, and you lift your hand and you relift it, the second lifting is indeed abuse. That's my own way of putting it to all of you. Thank you.
I feel like Kevin misunderstood.
Sir, please, that's expensive as children or as adults. For children, Kevin.
Exactly, you said it. You said it.
Not for Pascal.
I was talking generally. You have to put this in school. If not, I will answer what you understand. Beating is not necessarily abuse.
Assault.
Assault, is too big a thing. That's why I have the bookclub. So that we can prove whether it's really assault, correction, or whatever. What do you mean by correction? Self-defense. Self-defense. Yes, self-defense. Good.
Kemen, we're talking about it in the context of marriage and relationships.
Yeah.
In Nigeria and Africa.
That's the part you know good. That's what I'm trying to say.
Even all over the world.
No. It's not the same all over the world. The world is too big. Don't use all over the world. We start having issues. I'm not wrong. It's the truth.
I think the question you asked is a bit limited. I thought you were asking what should the women do if there's continuous abuse, right?
My question is, a woman that is married to a man that now beats her in whatever term she considers beating, whether one slap, two slaps, three slaps, four slaps, punch, or using belt, whichever method you can use now, some things are considered normal. What should that woman do? She now, they don't slap her, they don't punch her. Whether it's habitual or it happens once or twice, but me, I don't believe people change. People might change, but I don't believe that people change. So if they change, to me, is a mistake.
That's the same thing I said. Continuous abuse.
So even if it happens once, what should that woman do? If you stay there, don't come to me.
Like Professor said, there's been a breach. There's been a breach of agreement.
So people don't actually go that far to agree that thing. These are the things I'm talking about. A lot of things are not well discussed.
And there must be atonement, like he said.
Atonement in what way? If I almost think that there will be more people who atonement. What is atonement? See, let me say something. There are cultures that the atonement is actually buying something from women. They look this thing that is not small. People die.
Because a man is generally more powerful than a woman in God, physically. If you still at one, and there's been no sanction, no court to do it. Because it was considered to turn it. What he's asking is, what do we say? My own take is this: I just bottom line, always, and it will be forever. Any relationship that is not, let me use the Nigerian meaning of the word, any relationship that is not sweet, and I'm speaking English as a Nigerian now, be not sweet, leave them.
Thank you, sir.
But that's what we are going to do. We enter into mutual problem. That's why just now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
See, I'm giving the opinion. I'm learning.
Thanks for the privilege. I think I'll just read this out, which I wrote down while the exchanges were going on. We've lost love and are merely trying to survive institutions and the needed boundaries, because love is no longer a guarantee. That's the reason for these boundaries in the first place, because if love was still that thing, that ability to either totally overlook excesses or purify excesses, then boundaries would have been a question in the first place. So I believe that given the situation where anybody is assaulting another person, I will lawyer you. Yes. Yes, depending on the gravity of the assault. I'll give an instance, okay? This is an instance. Now we're trying to handle a situation where, okay, a friend of mine just called me, hey, Prince, somebody just had my sister beaten up, so what do we do? I'm like, chill. Then we're gonna go to the hospital, right? Do a review of her health and get a certificate so we can send us an evidence before, say, fetal biopsy and what this service is doing. Fine. 2 days after that, he called me again that, and he wanted the matter for house. And said, the guy, my sister husband. So you see the things that would always pop up. So you look at these things and should we die? The guarantee here is that love is no longer a guarantee. All right. So the guarantee of love, the humans die in the absence of love. Not exactly. So thank you.
Talking about gravity. So are you saying that if the analysis that was slapped, just slapped to, not that kind of heavy slap that will leave bruises or anything, and she meets you and she wants to portray you because there is lack of evidence, what will you do?
First of all, I would want to establish that we're handling boundaries. And while we were deliberating about boundaries, something was crossing my mind. When you're hungry, you get decisive to get your stomach filled. That is important. We treat important things with a do or die approach most of the time, because certain things are, if you're not doing them, they are doing you. So if we set these boundaries, it is because we have reasons for them. So am I going to compromise my reasons? That is me empowering the source of those boundaries meditated against me, the human agent, empowering them. So what I'm saying in essence is that it's more power. I give you power to use against me. And I think we should be, what the book has said so far to me is, it reminds me of the goodness in me to create my world in a way that gives you the freedom to float in like water. And then if you're resistant, you still have the right to float back out without any instructions or contributions from the right metaphor.
Okay, these are the questions we should have asked. Now, yeah, the time wasn't enough. I also have my own questions. One of those questions I wanted to ask was, what are the limitations of boundaries?
Sorry?
What are the limitations of boundaries? Yes.
So that was the limitations depend on the people involved in that relationship and those boundaries.
Because he said something about love being flawed. It is because we do not rely on love again. That's why we are setting boundaries. I don't think so.
It's largely so.
The thing is, this world we live in, It's not perfect. So many things can be understood in so many ways. That there is one of the reasons why we need a court. Even though the court itself will not always give us the very, very perfect justice in some situations. If love to some people encompasses a lot of things that love to some people do not encompass. Some people feel that love needs to have this, long suffering. Some people don't feel that. I'm not a person, I don't feel like my love has to have been love for what? So a person that believes that their love needs to have long suffering will long suffer. A person like me that does not believe it will not long suffer. So it depends on the person. If we are going to help this, then we need to be educated more and more. What the problems are. This is good. And I feel like the answer to that question.
I agree with what you said. Mentioned that the reason why people have the reason for boundaries is because there's no love or love is not complete. But if we're taking how we feel towards our own siblings that we love, to an extent we can even give up our lives and opportunities for them, we realize that boundaries are important simply because we are individuals and not because there's love. So I love my younger brother, but no, you cannot have the password to my phone. I love my younger brother, but no, you have to knock before you get into my room. The fact that we are people with different opinions, different points of view, different preferences, necessitates the need for boundaries. Don't cross this. It's like two people don't cross this line. Do not. That's the reason why countries have boundaries. You have countries that have good foreign policies, good alliances, and everything, but you have to take permission to cross boundaries. That's how it works. The love you don't love just because we're individuals, we're different, just so we can live in unity, in harmony, and for things to flow freely. There has to be a limit to what it is can do to me and what I can expect from you.
Slogan that you might have, love does not withdraw individuality. Only people who are individuals can be in love. And the status of being in love does not cancel individuality. You love her or you love him. Because it is of self-love. It is incomplete, almost faulty kind of love. That's why we speak of it with a little. Don't you think you're thinking too much of yourself? And loving someone is actually removing that bank, but not abolishing the difference of the individuality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the question, what's the limitations? I think that there's a danger to setting boundaries for me. I feel when people start having one boundary, they start having multiple boundaries. And it leads to being too careful and not being your complete self. So not like they're not important, but there are some boundaries that are not really necessary. Yes. I also open my phone. It's not necessary. No, the thing is, what I'm trying to say is there are limitations and there are drawbacks. I feel like if I have anything that I would say would be a limitation to having a boundary within a defined relationship space would be that people start becoming too careful and they start becoming individuals that are no longer a group. When they have when they have to draw too many lines to get to the other person, there are way too many things drawn in front of them. So I think there's a limitation to it and there's a drawback. And people being too careful, people start becoming individuals rather than a couple. So yeah, you have one, maybe, but not too many.
So personally, you're saying that boundaries allows for, you're essentially saying it's 50% good and 50% bad.
Maybe it's 70-30.
Which for which? 30 is bad.
No, yeah, 30 is bad. I don't give you 100% boundaries. I would not absolutely say that boundaries.
Why?
I just said it. People start becoming individual. People start having too many things in front of them. There are essential boundaries that would define, like something like violence and something like maybe like that one that the guy was collecting money that he gave to his mother. Those are clear things. But there are subtle boundaries in relationships that start breaching trust, that start eliminating trust between two people. That's why I'm saying that to a very small extent, boundaries can foster distrust amongst couples. Just follow the person that thinks. I can't just say myself.
No, it cannot completely work.
I know.
Please, somebody wants to say something.
First of all, everything is dangerous, even now you're here. You will have this in ways of in some relationship, you end up losing your individuality. And that's the problem. Come on. First of all, I have to know who I am, to know what I want. I beg, calm down. And from knowing what I want, I know what to go for. At that stage, I love you. I thought I told you, but you might be my mistake, might not be my mistake. But I have chosen that great thing.
I have a question. Please.
I have a question about this same boundary conversation. Before now, I don't use the word boundary. I don't use the word boundaries. I use deal breakers. So, is there a rationality between something being a deal breaker and it being a boundary for you? For example, my friend will tell me that she had a deal breaker. She can terminate on some things, but it's not her. It's a boundary, it's a deal breaker. But people have layers of deal breakers that will lead to distrust. So for some guys, there are deal breakers that don't check my phone. That fosters, eliminating trust from the relationship, and it's stifling it out. So just a general question for conversation. The rationality or the relationship between something being your deal breaker and it being a boundary you set in your relationship. If that even makes sense.
I think control is a big thing and boundaries are strong. In most Nigerian households, you can't tell your parents, don't read through my journal. But my mom just, seriously, there was a day I was writing and my mom came to my journal. Not like she had anything that she could not read. But just because she saw me writing and she took it and she was like, I said, don't read my journal. And she said, who said she bought it for me? And she said, your own journal again. But I realized that after that time, my mom sees my journal, she keeps it and she makes sure nobody reads it. See, boundaries are very little things. As simple as you don't use someone else's toothbrush. I think we should begin to think from there. Because we think it's big. We think it's big and it's strange. You drive on one lane, the other people going the other way, go the other way. They don't, if you cross, you're driving one way. Well, we need to notice that these things are everywhere in our life and they're not really big. I think we will transfer those principles to other things. They start from tiny things, and that's where they grow. So if you see it as just, if you beat me, I move, we begin to think of boundaries as deal breakers. But they are everywhere in our houses, in our rooms. You don't misplace my pen all the time, or you won't get my pen again. It's as simple as that.
That's not a deal breaker, right?
For some people, it's enough to be a deal breaker.
We think they are exactly. Some people get upset if you keep their rooms messed up. There are people with OCD issues. There are people who don't like to messed up. If you keep messing up a room, you can get somebody so pissed they decide to leave a marriage. Because you think that's odd. But boundaries are tiny and they have, just like we have sentiments to everything. People have sentiments to things. If I have a friend who keeps reading my journal over and over again, I'll have to do it. Because to me, it's a breach of privacy. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I want to say something. Sorry. There is something our father said. That's his very last word. On boundary, right? Yeah. His very last word before I pass the microphone, but quite ironic to the book title. I think I wrote it down in my book. Let me read it out. Loving someone is removing the boundary, and I stopped and passed the microphone. Just like food for thought. Thank you. Loving someone is removing the boundary. Is word right here.
Well, it depends on who you are. There are some boundaries that cannot be removed. It's just the thing. And then there are some of them that can be removed. You know? See, when you meet somebody, carry paper and biro, sit down, tell me number one, what is your own? That's what I do. Send yourself from problems. So that you know, forget this thing called romance. It doesn't last. Do the needful.
He said something about love not eliminating individuality. Before he said love, he said what?
He said, he said, loving someone is removing boundaries. That's like, to me, that's like, oh, because I love the person, right? I'll just remove the boundaries. I know this thing should never be transgressed upon.
God did not remove his boundaries.
You get.
He changed them from Garden of Eden. God did too far. Which one is too far now? We are discussing which one is too far. If you remove boundaries, you are not godly.
Hello. My name is Ernest Wari, and I think this is the first time I found myself in kind of gathering. Asked you, and I also asked this guy, and I was directed to come over here. I've not read the book. I'm seeing the book for the first time, but I just want to give a circular view on this discussion based on relationship and all that. My take here is that it is unrealistic now that most of us go into relationship without knowing ourselves. You just see a young good-looking girl with nice leg, and you just fall into her, you take her out. But like me personally, I don't just normally jump into a relationship. There's one thing I say, like friendship before relationship. At least that friendship, you get to know one or two things, and that is where my question always comes me when I'm always interacting with the opposite sex. What are your likes and dislikes? It is necessary because you can't just bump into a relationship and after having a good funny time and all that, and the next 3-4 days, the guy asks you to dress the bed and you're saying he's ditching you all around. Or you just be in a relationship, then by the time you get to marriage and all that, you now notice that he completes the laws, or he wants you to do the cooking, or these are things this guy has been doing and now he's not doing it and he wants you to do it. At least it is really, really necessary to know the likes and dislikes. At least become friends. Don't just bump into a relationship with somebody you barely know. You don't know me, you see me because I'm wearing nice dress or I'm tall, short, and you just pursue relationship with me. It's not done like that. Even some persons don't even say yes. You just find yourself that you're going out.
Okay, let me say something. Ernest, you think you're a different kind of man. There's sometimes you tell you what is your you're the fast guy. You will tell the girl, those things are too slow for me.
Yes.
You see, he's talking about friendship. Now, if you read this book closely, and if you follow her talks, and you follow teachings of relationship coaches, I don't say experts, because everyone is still learning, relationship coaches, you see that they teach you everything is a gradual process. You have to start from somewhere. Unlike Keme, who will tell the girl that
different relationship coach.
So your relationship coach tells you should go straight to the point.
Let me answer this. Human beings, we have in this world with mental threshold. Yes, there are certain things you cannot measure in reality. You know, there are certain things that are not tangibly measured, but they can be measured in our minds. You understand? That's part of why I was telling you when you were talking about the abuse. If you give me a scope, like say Nigeria, then I know that if I'm answering the question on abuse, I'm not jumping back, I'm just borrowing a sense from that. If you give me a question on abuse, I can say, oh, this is abuse. If you take me to Iran, then it is different. Then if you say, okay, let's stand above the world and look at the term abuse generally. Like I was telling her, a woman that loves to be beaten is not being abused. But to you watching now,
Can I say something?
you get, it's just like so, first of all, if you do not know yourself, to me, do not interact with people, stay in one island, discover it, because you cause problems. But if you must interact with people, make the conscious effort to know who you are. Me, I know who I am. You understand? I don't have that patience to find that. So I would just rather ask you, is this your way of doing things? Are you the kind of person that will dress the bed when you wake up? And I expect you to say the truth, but people lie. It's a matter of time. Yes. So, are you this kind of person? I don't believe in this thing called romance. It has been misunderstood because of Hollywood. You know, you think because you're taking it gently, you're more romantic than me. Oh, it doesn't follow. It's not a necessity. You only know. That's what I feel.
We're only saying that because it is important as individuals and as people in relationships to learn about yourself first and then learn about your partner. So you don't breach trust. You don't breach the agreement between you two. Now, if you're like Keme and you want to rush into things, you may likely rush out of it.
You don't need to say you may. You may. You don't say you may. That's why I am now. That's why I am. What I say.
If you notice, I asked Bralade, what is the blueprint for successful relationships? Now, in this, yes, she said so. In this gathering, we're addressing these issues in the context of healthy, successful relationships. Am I right? And that's why these things are important. So anything you opine on, please explain how it will work in a healthy, successful relationship. Because Kenny has just said something, and he said he subscribes to the rushing in and rushing out of relationships.
That's the thing. I said that. Yeah, if I rush in, that's a rush out. I do not say I subscribe. See, there's a difference. No, if you change anything in my words, you change the meaning.
So next time, I feel like you're making very absolute and
Identity.
Because an ideal doesn't work. Because first of all, you said some people feel like if we're talking about it, we should talk about it in the Arab sense, if we're talking about it in the Nigerian sense. I feel like things that are healthy worldwide. These are not healthy, are not healthy worldwide. Let's look at it this way. Imagine if you have a man with 1 million naira or 10 billion naira, and he was working in the market with 1 million naira. If you took 10,000 naira from that man, even if it did not affect that man, it was stolen from. If somebody walks to the doctor and has cancer, and the person says, "Oh, I don't identify as somebody who is sick," it shows that the person has cancer. It's standard. If you say that abuse is different just because of the society, then it means remove every social worker that goes to Iran, goes to every country. When you go to countries where child soldiers are trained and it's accepted, it's a norm. So you don't tell us that because we feel like children that are not up to 18 should not be conscripted into the army. It's not a problem. Doesn't matter where these things happen. Like she has said, as long as you're affecting somebody, A lot of people are not even in the mental space enough to identify abuse. That's the reason why we have people with Stockholm syndrome. They are raped, they go back to their rapists. They are held captive, they go back to their captors. Yet you have people work and strive to bring those people out of. It's because most people cannot identify these issues. You have people identifying them. Saying that because in that society it's not seen that way doesn't remove the fact that unhealthy things are unhealthy.
I agree with you. Unhealthy things are unhealthy things. Now, I'm giving you an explanation.
What is healthy sex? Healthy sex. What is healthy sex? I want to, because some people something, what they like, their fetish is that they are bleeding.
So what exactly is that?
Healthy sex is when there's consent from both parties.
So what is consent?
Yeah.
So you see what?
That's not my point, is that what is you said what is you said I was speaking. Is it absolutely idealistic? Sorry, that. You don't have to be absolute.
Yes,
So
for certain things going to a discussion. When the place where we're talking about health, then you like your playing devil's advocate for very strong and for very dire issue. We're talking about abuse. Yes, just like we have billions, Disney billions. There are people who come to make stories about the billions, but we're not doing Disney here. You're making excuses in terrible situations.
Excuses.
You are actually.
This is what I'm doing. I was telling her that.
See, yeah, I think you're getting into this is personal opinion. And everybody is entitled to their opinion. Whether you like it or not, one or two persons are getting something.
Yes,
it's making sense.
Can I say what one or two people will say?
That is the reality. I'm saying now, like now, wait. You said something about what you said something about sex, right?
what is healthy sex?
Yeah, what is healthy love? These are two different things.
There's a difference between fornicating, adulting, sex, and making love, right? But what is sex? So if you want to talk about if I want to talk about the term abuse, yes, it is a big issue because it's a big issue because it's not as if it is good. Abuse works with threshold. I was asking her that if you hear that I slap her now, for example, the first instinct is, why are you beating a woman? What the hell is that? This one, that one, yeah. But when you find out that she looked at me, looked at my phone, broke my phone, brought my life savings, for example, and then after one I slapped her. How would you not look at it? Not good enough to slap her, right? For your own being, for me now it might be because I'm like, I see my own life for beautiful. So you're saying that basically they can never be good enough excuse, right? I like that. Saying that nobody assassinates your daughter and the woman. So those are the things. We need the right conversation. We should jump out of emotions. You understand? That's just my feeling. Don't jump because it is an issue that is. It's not like I'm the pretense is I should side with my skin color. Hide yourself where nobody. And angels where. You understand? So talk about abuse, even dealing with your kids. And you find out that this person is just abusing his child. Like the woman in Enugu some time ago that locked the other one that burnt, was it not because she felt that she's a witch. Children rats with poison to drink because people that believe that witches should be killed. So that's what I'm trying to say. And there are people that will side it because of what a witch has done to them. They're like, no. It's just how it is. If so if you hear these issues, settle down and think about if you think about why people do things, you understand what Bralade was saying. you're not really better than a lot of people. This is just how I am. This is my view. Because this is the motive. This world is not perfect. We cannot get that kind of perfection that we want. We get. So when we jump, not really the talk, me holding my views absolutely and being idealistic. It's just the same as you holding your views absolutely and being idealistic.
We are going to convene a special session one day for Kevin. And the rest of us. And I will be present there too. And I shall be the moderator. But I will enjoy doing it. Thank you all very much. Absolutely. But the bottom line is I is playing devil's advocate. I can see that they will never lift a finger against a woman. Well, I thank you all very much. I'm keeping it right. I've said just that you all show such wisdom and maturity from your age so far.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's true.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mark.
He has already seen what is in my mind. The everything which we regard ourselves as honorary patrons of GLORYLAND bookclub.
Thank you very much.
And we have to connect to the program. Thank you all very much.
Some people will object to me being moderator. But still,
Make I ask question first. Wait, sure. I don't miss one.
Does no problem compromise?
Compromise.
Yes, for me it's like, yes, with compromise. For instance, let me just say, you and I, you're 20 years old. Let me just say, as an adult, you're 30 years old, and she is 27 years old. You've been living this life for over 30 years, and you're used to the morning when you have younger sisters that run to your room to tidy your bed and do all that. And now you've been living this life for over 30 years of your life, and you met a young lady who she is not exposed to such life or catering for you and all that. Now, what do you do in that relation when you find yourself in such a relationship? You, like me personally, what I normally do, I like friendship before relationship. When I get to know you, you come around, like I'm so good in the kitchen and I like doing my chores myself. When you visit me for the first time, what I normally do, when I wake up in the morning, I normally wake up to 6 or after 6 because of work. And when I wake up, I excuse you, I wake you up too, and I ask you to go to the toilet or to use yourself and do what is necessary. By the time you're back, my bed is dressed without me asking you to do it. Because some persons might find this so rude by you asking them, go and dress the bed, sweep the floor, and do all that. Then when you wake up, by the time you return from the toilet, then I wake up, I go to my kitchen, I try to make something to eat. And these are things you have to put in place. Sometimes you don't really have to sit them down and tell them. The person has to watch you how you do your things. Then if I do that for a week and you will normally visit me, then the next week I just wake up and I go outside and pick discussion with my neighbors outside, expecting you to know whether you can do it. And if you're unable to follow my footsteps, that is where I sit you down. I tell you, look at how I live my life. When I wake up, I dress my bed. Sometimes before the night goes by, I ask you, what are you eating in the morning?
I do it for some time, and once I don't find you doing this, I think we are not compatible because I want you to live up to my expectations because you have to do that thing.
Okay, so if I invite you back to my
ask your own question.
What is the number of persons that have the right to have their own opinion? Whether it goes by the standard or not. They have not said that it's going to meet. He said that if you don't meet my expectations,
all right, so apparently I'm not allowed to say anything. So about the question, I believe life is about compromise. Love. No, it's about compromise. Because here's the thing, if me personally.
Sorry, would you rather say
First of all, I believe there are sub boundaries, hard boundaries, and things that yes, they are shaped.
So they can't stand also.
Yes. So here's the thing. With my toothpaste, if I am using toothpaste, both person contribute. If I love you, I want that. So that is up to me. I will tell you that look, I don't like this shit. If we continue doing this, I still my best based on how much I like you. But that will definitely be a deal.
Because of time, I actually wanted to ask these old couples a few questions, but because of time. Because we have a few married persons here.
Only there. Okay.
Yeah, we should hear from them. And then we also should hear from the people that are not selling. Say something.
They don't want to speak.
Okay, now we are mostly young persons here. I think someone has asked this question before. What are your expectations as a man, not as an Ijoman, as a man going into a relationship? It's not Kemezo. I'm talking about normal people.
Normal people, you see.
Like me personally, my expectation of the relationship, what I expect from a woman, nothing much, respect, then love me dearly, honest.
Do you think that, sorry for cutting you, do you think that all of your expectations should be reciprocated, respect, trust, and all of those things that you want in a relationship? You want from a woman in a relationship.
So if I'm able to get 50.
And is it equal? Is it in equal measure?
No. Like 50, 60, 40. Relationship, if you don't get 50, you're even lucky.
Let's be particular. 60-40 for what? Respect. 60-40 for.
Yes.
Let's just talk about the few of them.
Yes.
60-40 for respect.
Yes.
60 from the.
Yes, because if I date you now, you're more like a gossip partner to me. You understand me? I discuss all my duty, like when I close from work, if you're around me, we talk. Yes, we discuss. Then without you finding out, I must say all how I run my day. That's when you're really in relationship. When you have an addiction in relationship, you understand? Most mistake we have in this our contemporary society is that we mistake good bed, like when a man gives you so hard, like that's where you like. I know
we mistake it for relationship. Sometimes a good one night stand does not guarantee a successful relationship.
You're correct. You're very
You
correct.
understand? So having a one night stand is very good and you think you love him. It's not like that. You have to.
So what guarantees a successful relationship? If you
Like 2 days, I made it clear in my status because I found myself mingling something or something, and it was just like 2 weeks, and it was like I played her.
Sorry, sir, are you in a relationship right now at present?
No.
Are you searching?
I'm not even searching. I'm just there.
Just single.
Eh?
Actively single.
I'm not single. I'm just not married. I played something on my status. I said there is no duration or a benchmark for a successful relationship. A relationship can be successful for 3 days, 1 week, 1 month, 2 years. If you're not getting the release, you just back out. That's it. Yes.
I want to say something about the blueprint.
To say something.
I did not see you. I am going to give anybody a microphone that raises their hand.
Are you
Like, I will not do it now for someone that if you want to speak, I'll give you the mic. If you don't raise your hand, I'll continue. Am I not giving you?
Okay, so it's really getting very interesting. I should now say that I feel that there is this fundamental boundary that we get to set. And those are the ones that are clearly non-negotiable because, for instance, no matter how I love you, Rich, you can stab my gullet, I survive it. And there's a way I love you in a way that I can negotiate that and have a second go at the probability of that not happening again in the same situation, right? So, are you getting what I'm saying? Got it. Yeah. Just that's a situation, right? Okay, I think I'm just saying it all over again, okay? Yeah. All right. Okay, I think I'll take that over again.
Hello, please allow him to speak.
Okay, so I said that in the end, there is one fundamental boundary that we set, and it's clearly non-negotiable, regardless of what comes down. And here's the instance. For instance, there's no way. I don't care that human being you are to me. That you probably want to sleep, right? And you sneak up on me with a knife, you stab my gullet, and by divine providence, I survived it. And then I would now clearly, in my consciousness, risk that situation to play out a second go. Now, okay, so I've been trying to be as non-biased as possible, I guess. Okay, so that being the case, I'll say, if my mom, which symbolizes the core of my suffering as a human being. So let's say my mom, in my wildest imagination, on one particular day, right, I was sleeping and then she stabbed me on the gut. I know my mom's not insane, right? We're done. By we're done, what I mean is, I'm not going to know when I spoke of their language. You won't see me again. No, I was sleeping, right? Honestly, I'm overwhelmed. I can't put it right there, right? Yeah, but then as I move, hello. Now we're looking at boundaries right here, right? Yeah. And I'm trying to still be a human being. I'm trying to go through all of these trauma and still maintain my sanity as a human being, right? And still realize she's my mom, all right? And not probably arrange to get her killed before she kills me, all right? So I think that given that situation, I'll give her the very end of the world. But then, because I am eventually father children, and there's something I would want them to learn, because we're talking about our society, aids and abets such things in society. Actually, I think it doesn't. Because we grow up and we see things, whatever lesson I ever got directly from somebody, I know it's not defendable. So I grew up in an environment where parents don't tell people I love you. No matter how my mom loved me, she would say I love you. And most of us are like that. That is just a way of saying how so many things are which they didn't say. And we still are not talking about, but they are real life things that happen every now and then. Right? And I feel that she brought out this book to bring all of those things there. But the truth is that we have man.
Okay, let me say something. When we said there's no blueprint to a successful relationship, we can agree that boundaries are set or are used to see the negativity, those negative things that would naturally, as a human being, as an individual, clog your relationship or hinder you or your partner in one way or the other. Because at the end of the day, people come together for mutual benefits, right? And to grow. So if you're with someone and you're not growing mentally, spiritually, and otherwise, then it's not a healthy relationship. And that's the subject we're discussing. So, yeah, we should set boundaries.
I think, you know, like what I wrote from the book right here, it goes for what, it goes for the person, either the girl or the guy, who has the least available evils he can dare to tolerate. Just like Jesus would say, hoping for the best, but expecting the worst, right? Yeah. So I already have a mind frame of what you can do to me, what you cannot do to me, regardless of what I did to you. Because I'm trusting that life wouldn't push me to the point where I would have to be beyond or below my sanity. All right? So it's about the things I can take from you. I don't necessarily see the boundaries, actually, okay? I'm not about the boundaries. I'm about the limits of tolerance that I can take. So at that point, that's the boundary. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. So at that point, I leave.
There's one important issue in the book that we've not yet discussed. Actually, I'm sure most of us have seen that with the acrimony.
Yes, we have.
So, I will say the thing, then maybe I will coin out the question for me. These women that believe that they have to support their man's brain, and those men that believe that they have to support their woman's brain, because not everybody that shares that mindset. That's not the question. No, that's not the question. So if like in the book, one of the stories, there was this woman that was it was her money. The man said he wants to chase his, and he resigned from work to come and chase his thing. Then the woman was funding it. Now funding. Okay, she was ignorant. And but the thing is that you have your husband. Are you addressing the question of it? As I'm explaining, good, okay, that's what I want. Sorry, my English is somehow. So now you are the one funding this man, whatever it was. It's like in acrimony, he was trying to discover something. And it was her money, her trust fund, inheritance, and all of that was funding all those things. So at what point will a person back out from that funding campaign?
At what point does it become stupidity?
Something like that, like
as a day, oh boy, but woman. Yeah, because now, good. So now my love will make them do it. Yeah. That's another one because the love is not a good experience. See the problems with this thing called love. So now she dey fall down. The man dream. The man now will come to feel like that is my question.
Do we get
at what point is it too much?
Okay.
That's my question. It goes both ways, though. Yeah. Because there are some men that literally pick somebody, literally, they are women got at sometimes. But Nigerian children, go ahead. I'm not saying them to that one is my separate. So it's not this person. At what point does it become stupid? At what point does it become wrong or unhealthy? She has spoken.
I just wish we had more time with Bralade.
Okay. I'm going to use this illustration. As a lady, you saw a style and you want to put it on your head. And you find out that after buying the attachment and everything, you don't watch for attachment these days now. And then you end up buying like 3 packets of attachments and then you put the thing on your head and then you look at the mirror. Then the next day you still remove that thing on your head. You just like what you're saying now. Now, no matter how hard you invest in something, no matter how much, it doesn't matter. No matter the time, once it starts disturbing your peace. Now, when I mean disturbing your peace, once you start seeing that there is no more transparency, no honesty, because if you like pick her from below the gutter and she's not interested, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you like training right from when he was born till grew up and he's not interested in you, there's nothing you can do about it. I think at that point when you realize that it will disturb your peace, you can't force it. I think that's another way of, should I say, boundary, because I'm not sure the person is ready to cross for you, no matter how much you invest. So life sometimes is fair, sometimes it's unfair. At the point you realize that it is stamping with your peace. Yes, I want to start tampering with your peace. Start to the walls you've been building. Start getting ready to let it shatter, so that by the time it shatters, if it will shatter, you won't be too surprised. You've already built yourself up for it, because the chances are likely that you might fall or you might not fall. So once it starts stamping with your peace, just know that get ready. Just get ready to let it go, no matter how much you've invested.
You see, that's the problem. A lot of persons don't easily see the negativity. They don't see the flaws.
No, I know see. Some people get no self-esteem. They'll come with money and say, you will get pride. Yeah, you don't know this problem. Some people have serious problems, then they now put it on you. It's you.
Yes, it is. The problem is that from the moment that woman from matrimony gave that man her everything, that was the problem. Yes, you need a job. I mean, how can you use your own transport on someone else? You have no. She has no plan for herself. So he became her plan. And when something was not working out for her, she started experiencing rage, issues, aggression, and everything.
If we open the conversations surrounding acrimony, I understand that.
I'm sorry. You said she was okay with him and everything, but here's the thing. Her life was falling into pieces. No. That was what happened. Her life was actually falling into pieces. Her sisters were telling her this, but she was relentless.
Coping how? Coping how?
Her sister started feeding her stories like it's cheating on her.
But he was.
Was now. Why you cheating? What you on her?
Yes, we're talking about weight line in the sand.
Okay. Removing acrimony or anything, my stance is that you can't make one particular thing do everything. You have to spread out so that if this thing doesn't work out, you have other things to fall back on.
Okay, William, we have to talk about other things in the book.
Okay,
You want to respond.
I think like me about why you're finding that person's dream, essentially, for me. I feel like, if, for example, now the acrimony thing, she was funding it because she wanted to see results. So if you're talking about how long can you do it, as much as there is tangible result and there's prospect, first you have to believe in what this person is doing. If you don't believe in what that person is doing, it's stupidity to move on it, because you move law first from the equation and prove logically. What do you see? Do you see the value in what this person is doing? Talking about investing a lot of energy and money and time. I'm talking about money, like investing money into somebody else's dream. I think it's not about how long. First, if I believe enough that you are going to, be successful, I'm going to follow you for as long as I can. As long as the money is there to spend, and I'm not going to borrow, even if I have to borrow. But it's a conversation of if I believe enough in what you are doing, and if that belief is there, I'm not going to run out of fuel anytime soon. So it's not even about tiredness, blah blah blah.
Thank you.
Hello, please wait. Sorry, I've not read the book, so I might not follow up, but I just want to ask him something. What if a man that sponsors a girl academics and after graduation, after you want to final year and the lady decides not to get married to him again? What do you have?
Is she promising that she was going to marry him? Yes? No, please. No. Maybe she was promising it because she wanted to. Let's not start demonizing this young lady. If someone is looking at you as an opportunity to go to school, and you have said if she does not agree to marry you, not if it is business, you are not the smart businessman, in my own opinion, if she doesn't marry you. It's simple. If she did not expressly tell you on her side of women, she told you that she was going to marry you after you told her. You were doing it. You are allow me to talk. You are building up from the ground up. You are doing all of those things. After you always nothing and discussion about. And nothing short is never a guarantee that that person wants you back. So we need to know the man. Let me try.
William, thank you very much. We're moving on to thank you. Okay, in literature we talk about a lot of things. Themes, style, setting, and all of those things. And because of how broad the issues discussed or addressed in the book are, we've dwelt on that for the major part of the time we're here. And we want to talk about style now, briefly. So if you have any comments about Bralade's style, her style of writing. For me, personally, I thought this could be a 30 to 45 minutes talk on relationships. But then again, she put in the work to write 13 stories, short stories, to teach people on the importance of boundaries. And in a way, they are not your regular stories. They still have your setting, plots, and everything, structure, and good storytelling. So if you have comments on her style of writing, please say something.
She does a very good job at, I think, mentioned, pointing out her setting correctly. When, not to erase the author, but when people talk about techniques of the Enigma, if you read a lot of the reviews, a lot of people from other parts of Nigeria say when they read the work, they could not imagine Enigma in their head. It was just the names of streets. It's the same thing somebody said about Shibundu on Onuzu's Welcome to Lagos. That the writer just used the idea of Lagos, but did not give the feel of those places. But in Bralade's book, when you hear the names, when you think of Houston, even if you've not been there, you can think of the schools, you can think of how they got to where they were going to. It's very rich. But when it comes to her use of her descriptions were fine too, but at some point it felt a lot. They were good, but then they were a lot. Then another thing is somebody has mentioned it and she has given her reason. But I feel like a lot of those issues should not have been resolved. We just wanted somebody, just find fullness in yourself. You don't have to solve the problem with your spouse. It doesn't have to be happy. Just realize that, okay, I'm an individual and then I can move on. Then the last thing is, I think her editor missed a lot of spelling errors, punctuation errors, sentence fragments. She had a lot of sentence fragments. I would read like 2-3 sentences that have no subject. And then I'm like, okay, where is this coming from? I realized that it's supposed to be part of the other sentence, but then they put a full stop in there and you have like half a sentence.
Anybody else? Okay, so the same thing, Kenneth, before you say something, the same thing you said and the same thing Andres said. When I read the book, the stories felt to me like, in this Niger, somebody will do that to you and then it will just, they all just have happy endings. I understand from where she's writing from as a relationship coach, you generally want things resolved and settled. That's why most of the stories are resolved and they live happily ever after. But in this Nigeria, most of those things, it's either somebody ends up in a body bag or it's a divorce or one thing or the other. And that's the reality, not what we read in the book. But then again, it's her work and she chose that. So, Kema, you wanted to say something?
I felt like the stories are rushed. And I wish that she allowed us, me personally, enjoy my reading in a different way, to be more. Because after I noticed that she would take some time to give us the interlude. Yes, all of that. The person, how they fell in love, how they met themselves, some of those things, the house they are in, their relatives, some of the characters of their relatives. But when she's going to the ending, everything just seems like a Disney movie, and then they live happily ever after. Just like you just rush the whole Cinderella story. Too much coincidences. It feels like this is not realistic. So towards the ending of each of the stories, I felt like each story was rushed towards the end. For example, the one where they were talking about the Oga beating his wife. The maid that ran away just suddenly heard that the man is blind, and then they are tending to one of his eyes, and this one just okay. You should have put at least 2 more pages, and saying some of the things that happened. How did he lose his eye? Because some people will be reading that story and be feeling like, I want to see the repercussion of this man's action. And then he just hear that he lost his eye. What happened? Did he lose his eye when he was trying to beat her? Or did he get sick with diabetes and have cataract? The rat jumped. We want to know so that we could feel some form of justice, Because if he did not lose his eye from that action, it feels like there's not positive justice in action.
Okay, I also have this question. I don't know if I was the only one that felt like, Bralade comes from a home where everyone is educated and Professor Dad, Professor Mo. It feels like culture does not, in quotes, have a hold on her or influence her as a woman. And, since she has a model figure as a mom and as a professor of English and all of that. The stories I saw in the book, most of them pointed to very strong female characters with little or no hold on culture, or should I put it this way, with culture holding nothing on them.
Yes. Yes. The culture of they are from.
Yes, it's just, I feel it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
Yeah. You were in the US. That's what I was asking. One of those cases.
That was the only story I actually saw in two glimpses of okay, the Nigerian African a woman must give birth after 9 months after the wedding and all of that. And, you know, that was the only story. But in none of the other stories, it was just. Yeah. We can't talk feminism today.
See, me, I feel like some of those. If this work was submitted to, if it was what do you call this thing? Competition, essay competition, and maybe you should do a collection of short stories and submit it as hers. I was the examiner. Yeah, I'll tell her that I call her to the side and tell her that she's lazy. No, listen now, and let me finish. I'm not criticizing her book. I said if this was submitted as a classwork, this is not the classwork. This is her view on certain issues. Whether you like it or not, go and write your own. This is real life. I said if this was a school, and I have my reason for saying that she's lazy, because like in this cultural hold over the families, some of the men too, not just the women, it did not seem like they had much understanding of their culture. I feel like because she probably did not want to bring out much culture, and probably because she did not maybe know much about her culture, she seems like she's very westernized. Because she seems like she's very westernized with the grounding her family education and all of that. I did not hear chief, I heard professor, I did not hear majesty or highness, I heard professor. So it seemed like their biggest titles seemed like it's more education inclined, which is usually Western standard. So what she did was she removed the characters and took them to another place where that culture will not need to be. It's like if I want to write about their people and I don't know much about their people, I decide to write about their people living in Lagos so that I don't have to mention much about Ogbia. You get my point? So that is why I said I will not say they are lazy. It is not laziness as a punitive. It is like so that's why I say you should always conclusions. You understand? So it's just like guy says the place, it doesn't mean the place. I'm talking about the just stories too. Is that not a culture? She's them up. Yes. If she writes about Ijos in foreign, she will not need to say much.
Most of them don't say in tune to culture, so to say. That's like they don't act the way Nigerian men act.
They do not show much of their culture. They acted some ways how African men act, but it doesn't mean that they showed much of our culture.
What I'm not trying to say is not every man is like this is how we do.
No, but the book has men that were thinking like that too. There was one man acting like a coach.
It's not everybody that will be like that. So it's not as if okay, because it was not shown in this, it was not written about this man to be what he should have done. It's a real Nigerian man, that's a real African man. Not everybody still thinks that way.
You get. Some people have moved beyond, even if they still live in Nigeria, they moved.
It's seeming like you're talking about.
How? No. She told us then that she's not going to make a case for any of the characters. At the end of the day, you support who you want to support, and you find the best to them. I think because short stories have like a set limit, if you get past if you're not writing a novella or something else like that, in those few parts, she builds her characters to the extent in which she did a good job. Although it's not so everything, because she has to evaluate people.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly. I think what also like makes for me a good work is like is relatable. And these are stories that, like I was saying, like you will just see yourself in at least one, or even whether you're married or not. So I think that's what makes it.
I think that I don't know if I was the only one who was getting this aspect of the nuance to this. I think there's a way that she went about starting her story, such that I observed she was kind of mild on the female antagonist and kind of center on the male antagonist.
Yes. Can you give story?
So at some point.
How about the story about the woman who calls her husband to come from work?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? So
she's not explained that. I know about the wife.
Okay, so that's basically what I'm talking about, right?
Hello. If you want to that's why I said if it was classical, because now if you took our time to explain how this other one.
No, in one reason there was something like that because he later called the man. I was like, yes, there was. And yeah, there was.
I think you get my point very well. Yeah, my point is this, okay? She's a great wife. She's good, all right? She's got a great command of diction. And, she knows exactly how to use words to depict what she wants to show you. Very well. My concern is that I have a duality in me that is prompting me to have a comparative study of her text of these 13 short stories, right? And I realized that she's more stern in, let me say, bedeviling the male character than the female character. I'm being very honest in my perception right now. All right. So at some point, I felt like, hey, Bralade, if I had the opportunity, I would have called you out for, say, a debate on these, so that, come on, there's so many people who are as educated as you are. Some are more educated than you are. Some are lower educated as you are. So people are going to see things from a large perspective. And for you to come and tell somebody who already has a first-hand experience of a particular thing, right, in a manner that doesn't quite reflect the way it is, it's more like, come on, that's a shadow of the truth in most of the cases. For instance, okay, I had a point of reading a part of the story out to a sister of mine. A story about the natural guy who came to buy some social works, right? Got married to this beautiful melanin popping Nigerian girl, right? But then her trust issue was so massive. He truly tried to please her. And now, come what may and all what not, it turned out that at the end of the day, a therapist simply tells him that, okay, due to how I've evaluated your spouse, your wife, it became clear that she's been suffering from some kinds of trauma of complicity with her father on her father cheating on her mother. You get it? Yeah. So the way the story was resolved there was kind of like, okay, when you get to this point, adjust your boundaries and know that this person can actually tell a good leave and see how he can reaccommodate, like the normal rehabilitate, reintegrate into society kind of stuff, right? Yeah. But then on another story, when she was talking about betrayal, come on, it was so beast. I felt like, no, I cannot be like that. Yes. The betrayal, sometimes betrayal. Yes.
Okay, the one about the nurse funding demands.
No.
How about that?
Betrayal is this guy who prides himself with his legal friends that, hey, he knows what to do to any girl, right? So I have a whole lot of arsenal of ways of disciplining you and stuff like that, right?
You say you're not like that, but there are men.
What I'm saying is your level of sincerity in approaching these, okay? As I believe this is an intellectual circle, and it's important that we be, it's important that we be as objective and not biased as possible. Otherwise, it has a way of rubbing off on your truths. People be like, was she truly truthful on the stuff? If I cannot rely on your judgment here, why would I rely there? I guess that's a comfort zone. You get. So I'm of the view that going forward, it's possible. But if she truly wants to do this thing of bringing two very sharp edges to the fore, then she truly has to know how to hang on the balance and treat them squarely. If she's writing as a man, let her be like when the Coke came and killed William Shakespeare's Making Cocoa for Country Hermes, right? Yes. But if you're not going to do that and do it real cool, then I feel you should write other subjects. Yeah.
I personally feel she addressed the issue squarely.
She did not.
On both sides.
She did not.
On both sides.
Okay, why is it beating?
Sorry,
that's how I feel.
Of course, have, and first of all, I feel like see this, like the other time we didn't have to, but like see because we're with friends. Then another thing, I think if we bring works by feminist writers, she's the most lenient I've seen.
Exactly.
Oh,
yes.
Wait. You just said something tough right now.
Yes.
The most lenient. That's you are suggesting that not.
I know what you're saying.
It's true.
No matter how to say, even if this is an intellectual environment, we would always bring biases into writing. I'm not going to that.
That's true.
But you notice, like I said, she actually did great with her male character. You have a male character who was supportive of his wife. They didn't have a child who was supportive of his wife. We are even arguing that that was not African. She was not stressing herself. You have, even in the issue where the wife was suspicious, for the first time I saw a man tell his wife, I will leave the house if you don't stop me. And I was shocked. I was like, okay, we have a male character who is telling his wife, I will pack out. That's very new. Because usually when you have the wife that packs out. So it was new. Even in the wife-husband training, she pointed out that this guy was picking up things he had learned from somebody. Even if he said, obviously that's also trauma. And the man went back and she soft-pedaled on the story. To me, she was very fair. Because if you have people with very strong feministic writing, there are people who write essays and say, Chimamanda, the word you use, bedevil, I don't think we'll attribute it to Bralade's work. Her male characters were, to an extent.
So you're judging from another feminist work. What you're saying is like, as I don't know this one.
In literary you can judge a work based on the things in it. You can judge it based on your reader's point of view. You can judge it based on the author's life. You can judge it based on other literary works. It's why you have people who write books in response to other people's books. Because you feel like these ideas were not touched correctly. Like Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart was written in response to a white man's point of view that Nigerians did not have a structure in their society for white people. If I were to analyze this book, fine, I feel like you're analyzing this based on your reactions to it in society, the way other people are written, that's what I'm doing also. If you bring other works, male characters are usually devils. Because exactly that's what people experience. But to me, this character did a fair work. You have caring male characters, you have accepting male characters, you have male characters accepting boundaries. For me, she did.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Yes. When you look at my own view, for example, which is similar to his now, and say that okay, this is what I'm feeling. Yeah? It's like I said earlier, me standing on my own point very, very brusquely. It's just the same as you standing.
I'm not arguing that you're
good. So when you have an author that writes about men, according to him now, the devil, and there are those that have done even way, way worse than that, it doesn't justify that. Yes, one will compare them to the work, but in objectivity, it doesn't justify that. I have not told out the work, you understand? Because me, like my dad would say, when you want to criticize somebody's